Good morning, it's Karen here from Make Me Pretty Upcycling and I'm based in Christchurch, New Zealand. Today I just want to do a very fast video for someone who is interested in repeat stenciling. So what I've done is I've already done the first stencil. I'm about to lift it and we'll just take it from there. So let me just tilt this down for you. Right, so there you go. So I've done the first lot of stenciling. I use one of these to put a tiny amount of paint in, and as you can see I take it off in here and then finish the offloading on a bit of paper. I've taped it down so it doesn't move, and I'm now going to take these pieces off quite carefully because I don't want the stencil to move while I'm doing this. So I'll hold it just a little bit in place so that doesn't happen. And I'll put these bits of tape to the side so I can use them once I've moved it. There we go. There we go. The trick with stenciling is to keep your brush as dry as possible, because you don't want too much paint on your brush because it will distort and bleed and do all sorts of horrible things. So because of the fact that the stencil is quite dry, it's easy to move it to where you want to place it to do the repeat. So when you're picking it up, I hold it in one corner and lift it from the other like that, and that way it can't do anything. Now you'll see that I haven't made that good a job of this. There's some bleed through. So what I use is I get my little cotton bud and go like this, and it just helps get rid of that slight bleed through. And that would have happened because I perhaps had too much paint on. Now possibly people wouldn't notice it, but I do. So I will just get that off, so I'm happy with it. That's much nicer in my eyes. Okay, so what I'll do now is dry the edges of this, because with repeat stenciling it, I'll be putting this down, so I need to know that the edge where it's going on is not going to smudge. Sorry, I'll just get that out of there. Okay, so let me just get the old hairdryer. Okay, so now I will move the stencil along. Now in real life, if I'd been doing this, say on the drawer of a dresser or something like that, I would have measured, because to my eye this doesn't actually look that straight. So as you can see, cotton buds come in very, very useful. So moving it along, now this one, because it's quite close to the edge, there's no overlap per se. So what I'm going to have to do is just line it up perfectly. So it takes me a while to do this. And now I'm going to tape it down. And there's two reasons for taping down with this type of stencil. The first and foremost is you do not want it to move. But the second is you don't want to get excess paint over the edge of the stencil. So I'm going to stick this one very softly down, because I certainly don't want to pull up all that stenciling I've just done, which is a risk. And back I go. So dip it into the paint. Take as much off as I can onto here, and then onto my handy paper towel. Right, and away I go. And I'll try and keep this at the same level of paint, i.e. not too much darker or not too much lighter than the one I've already done. So let's get this down. Now if I think that looks noticeably darker than my first one, I'll share a little trick with you, and I'll take a dry brush like this and actually use it to take paint off. I know that sounds silly, but it's magic. So I always have one or two stencil brushes by me. I sell these 3 packs and I find them absolutely ideal to use. They're not too big or clunky. All right, so I'm going to get this off carefully, so there's no movement. If you take it off too hard and fast, it will actually pull off the paint. So it's just something you've got to be a bit delicate about. So there we go. That one off. It's like doing surgery, isn't it? Last one off. And just remember, hold it in one area and just lift it. There we go. Now this is good because this is a common problem when you're doing repeat stenciling, and it's good I've got to show you because I'll show you how to fix it. Can you see how there's a sort of, you can see a line where the two colours meet? So what I'm going to do is show you what you can do to trick your eye so that's not as obvious, and that's all you really want to do. And as I mentioned, there is a little bit of a colour difference. I can actually see with my eye that the second one I did is a little bit darker. So what I'm going to do first off is just do this, take a little bit off, and then I'm going to take one of my array of little artist pens, and sorry, I'm just going to put my stencil in water straight away, and I'll just turn this around so you can see what I'm doing. So when you run the water over the stencil, it just wicks, it comes away. I don't know if you can see that so well, but it's the best way to get the paint off your stencil is to put it under the running water and give it a wee rub with your finger, because you can control you know, how much pressure. Some of these stencils have got little sticky outy bits. I'm always a little bit careful. My other tool that I use a lot with stencils is this soft toothbrush here, but again I'm quite careful how I use this. Now what I'm going to do, I've got the bulk of the paint off, so I'm just going to put a plug in here, put a little bit of just ordinary old dishing up detergent and put some warm water. I'm just going to leave it to soak. And I'm a bit fanatical about cleaning my stencil straight away so that doesn't happen. So let's see if I can get you a bit closer to this. So what I'm going to do now is show you a technique for when you've got this sort of difference going on, how you can sort of just smudge it a little bit and blur it a little bit. Your tools of the trade for this are going to be your little brush and your little button, your cotton bud, sorry. So what I'm going to do is blur that line. So that one looks perfect. Let's make this one perfect. Yep, that went a little bit too far. Good. Here we go. Use the button cord. Button costs, sorry, cotton buds, you can take off or put on paint, whatever you want to do. So let's just get that a little bit there done. Good. I try and keep as close to the actual design as possible when I'm doing these little fix-ups. Okay, so let's go for that one there. So having an array of brushes is so handy when you're an upcycler, not just your painting brushes, but having all sorts of brushes. So that's going to fuzzy that up a little bit. Let's get a little bit more here. Good. 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 So I'm quite happy with that now. When it dries, it's going to be virtually impossible to see where that has joined. And you just have to do enough that your eye's not drawn to it. So I've got a wee smudge there. So again, I'm just going to use my button cloth and get rid of that. And I saw something else, but it's gone now. So you can just neaten up the edges. So there we are, perfectly joined stenciling. So I've showed you how to do it, tips of the trade. The last thing I want to show you is this fabulous product. It is an American product, but I just got it from my local Mitre 10, and it's called a latex paint remover. I think that just stands for water-based paints. So if I have a stencil that's got a build-up of paint, I will spray this on and sit it on the silicone mat I've got here. So if I just show you with this one, it's a bit wet, but you'll get the feel for it. So you can see there's quite a lot of paint still on that. So what I will do is, and I use the latex mat because I don't want to get anything on my my stainless steel bench. I don't want it to affect it in any way. So you spray this on so it's quite soaked through. And it says to leave it for a few minutes, but I'll start with my toothbrush straight away. So this is another tool of the trade. If you're stenciling cotton buds, toothbrushes, little paint brushes, your tape, paper towels. The other thing I always have by is my brush cleaning pad. I use that to clean up these brushes once I finish with them. So for now, I'll just soak this in water so it starts to get clean. Actually, I'll just quickly show you while that's soaking a little bit. So I put a little bit of just ordinary old dishwashing detergent. You can see how much it's coming out. It makes an awfully good job of cleaning it. So I'll just rinse that, rinse the brush, and do it again. So these little brush cleaning pads are really worth their weight in gold. You can see it's coming out really easily. So I use that for my big brushes. I can do a 50 or a 60 centimetre brush on this pad just as easily as I can do a small one. So for now, I'll just leave that soaking, and I'll take us back to this. So this has been soaking for a while. So I'm just going to get my toothbrush and very gently rub over this. And like magic, I've had stencils that have had a build-up, and it's generally these delicate sort of ones that you find this happens with. And by doing this, they honestly, that looks like new. It amazes me every time I do this. It's such a fabulous product. I'm just going to rinse it off and show you so you can see what I mean. So if you look at this now, there's not an inch of paint left on it. So that's the product I use. That's my go-to if for whatever reason it's been left and it's a bit inky. So there we go, repeat stenciling. And I've shown you a few tips and tricks, things that you can do when things go wrong. So just remember, have your cotton buds handy. So there we go, Make Me Pretty Upcycling, signing off.